Good evening, everyone. In the next 5 minutes, let's understand something very interesting. United Arab Emirates exit from OPEC and what it actually means for the world. So, first, what exactly is OPEC? OPEC stands for the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. It was formed back in 1960 in Baghdad by five countries: Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Venezuela. And now, why was it created? At that time, major Western oil companies were controlling the oil prices, and they would reduce the prices without even consulting the countries that actually owned the oil. So, naturally, these oil producing countries were earning less. And that is when OPEC came in. The idea was simple: control the supply of oil so they could protect their profits. And today, OPEC has 12 member countries, including Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Nigeria, and others. And among them, Saudi Arabia is the most powerful player because it has massive oil reserves. But OPEC alone is not the full picture anymore. In 2016, another group was added: non OPEC partners like Russia, Mexico, Oman, and others. And together, this bigger group is called OPEC Plus, which has a total of 22 countries. That is 12 OPEC and 10 non OPEC countries. And why was this expansion done? It was basically to stabilize the global oil prices, because when more countries they coordinate, they get more control over the market. Now, here is how they actually control the oil prices. They use something called production quotas. Basically, OPEC decides how much total oil should be produced globally, and then they divide that among various member countries. So each country gets a limit, and every country is told that this is how much oil you can produce. And this is important because if too much oil is produced, prices fall. If too little oil is produced, prices rise. So quotas help maintain that balance. And here is the catch: these quotas are not equal. Countries like Saudi Arabia they get larger quotas while smaller producers they get less. And sometimes the countries even break these limits, which weakens the OPEC's control. Now let's come to the main question: why did UAE decide to exit OPEC? There are a few key reasons to it. First is the production limits. The UAE has invested heavily in increasing its oil production capacity. Currently, UAE produces 4.8 million barrels per day, but that is two-thirds of its actual capacity. It is capable of producing much more, but OPEC quotas were restricting it. So, by leaving OPEC, the UAE now gets full freedom to produce more and earn more revenue, more profits. Second is the strategic independence. The UAE wants more control over its own energy policies instead of waiting for group decisions, which are actually very slow and political. And now it is all geopolitics, as you know. And third is the geopolitical tensions. There have been differences, especially with Saudi Arabia over oil policies and regional issues of UAE. And finally is the long term thinking, the foresight, as we say. The UAE understands that in the future, the global demand for oil may decline due to renewable energy, so it wants to maximize the production while the demand still exists. Now, another important factor affecting OPEC today is the conflict involving Iran. This has disrupted the major oil supply routes, especially the Strait of Hormuz, and that is a critical route for the global oil transport. Because of this disruption, oil prices have become highly volatile, and even as you know, they have been crossing $120 per barrel on certain occasions. So, even if OPEC decides to increase the production, actual supply is still affected by the war conditions. In simple terms, OPEC's control over the oil market is weakening. Now let's talk about India. Because this directly impacts us, India imports around 2 billion barrels of crude oil every year. And here is something important. For every $1 increase in oil price, India's import bill it increases by about $2 billion. So what happens if UAE increases production after leaving the OPEC? On one hand, more supply could mean lower prices, which is good for India. But on the other hand, if OPEC becomes weaker, oil prices may become more unpredictable, and that makes planning difficult. However, one advantage for India is it can now negotiate directly with the United Arab Emirates. Possibly, we may get better deals. And just to give you the context, UAE is not the first country to leave OPEC. Countries like Qatar, Indonesia, Ecuador, and Angola have also exited in the past, mostly due to economic or policy differences. So, to sum it up, the UAE left OPEC mainly to gain full control over its oil production, increase its revenues, profits, and prepare for a changing energy future. But at the same time, this move could weaken the OPEC and makes global oil prices more volatile. That's it for today. If you found this helpful, do like and subscribe to my channel to the point. And I'll see you in the next video. Jai Hind.